Ready? Boo!
On September 3rd of 2023, Dominique Hackey and his wife received some startling news about one of their twin sons who was in the NICU at Henrico Doctors Hospital.
A nurse was standing over Noah and was swaddling him and just kind of looked back at us and was like, hey, I noticed that his left leg was not moving. It was kind of discolored. Told the doctor on staff. We got some x-rays. We determined that he had a fracture to his leg, so we are going to splint it for the next 2 weeks.
While Hackey's mother, a longtime NICU nurse, felt the injury was suspicious, Hackey says hospital leadership suggested it was accidental.
That's what they told us, that it could have been done because an injection was given and maybe they did it too hard and that caused the fracture.
3 days later, hospital staff found another baby with bruises on both of his thighs and a left radial buccal fracture. According to this heavily redacted report from the Virginia Department of Social Services, a NICU doctor told a Henrico police investigator that she contacted the NICU's medical and nursing directors about that infant's injuries and placed an alert in the risk system. She then shared the results with 3 different radiologists and the baby's mother. The radiologist told the investigator that they told the NICU doctor that this type of fracture raised suspicions for non-accidental trauma. One of them said it was, quote, not normal, and he had never seen this before with a child who had not left the hospital. Another radiologist said he reviewed images of 3 babies and said he had never seen anything like this in his career. The NICU doctor told the detective she had asked her medical director if they should call Child Protective Services about the injury, and she said he told her it would be taken to leadership and looked into by the NICU nursing director and the hospital's chief medical officer.
How many more people need to tell you that it's abuse or negligence before you do something? That it doesn't make sense to me.
By September 11th, the chief medical officer had a Zoom meeting with a 4th radiologist. That radiologist told police he reviewed all the images and had never experienced anything like this in his 25 years. He said he thought that a pattern of abuse was going on, whether accidental or gross negligence. In total, 4 babies in Henrico Doctors NICU were found with fractures between August 5th and September 18th of 2023. And yet, the medical director for the NICU told the HPD investigator that when the medical team spoke over the phone about the fractures, quote, nobody in that conversation was convinced that these were intentional. He said he, quote, still believes these occur in the normal realm of care and said NICU babies are, quote, medically fragile in a way that people don't understand. Still, he said it does, quote, bubble up a concern for safety in the NICU. According to this report, none of the doctors or nurses the detective interviewed contacted CPS about the fractures. State code requires doctors and nurses to report suspected child abuse or neglect to social services within 24 hours. It was not until September 21st, more than 6 weeks after the first baby was found with a fracture, that the hospital called CPS. The state later cited the hospital for failing to report suspicion of child abuse within a timely manner.
It's hard. Being in a NICU environment is challenging.
We spoke with Dr. Nasim Gorgi, who is a neonatologist in the Boston area. While she does not know the medical details of these cases, she says it's important for people to understand that NICU babies are incredibly fragile.
In your experience, how frequently are you seeing babies in the NICU with fractures?
Babies who are born early, they are at risk for metabolic bone disease and essentially demineralization of their bones. It's not uncommon in the NICU, but I can't tell you that every baby who's born early necessarily has fractures. There are usually reasons why we're getting x-rays and finding these things.
Gorgi also says she is not surprised the hospital or the doctors who reviewed the images and the babies did not call CPS right away.
When you see a fracture, you're seeing a fracture on an x-ray, but it doesn't necessarily give you the history that got there. So I can understand why people would want to be very certain and really look at all the details of the cases and the babies before contacting CPS, because there are other reasons why babies can get fractures.
When CPS began investigating, they learned the hospital's lawyers had already done an internal probe. That investigation determined that a nurse named Erin Strotman had had contact with all the infants in the time frame identified. The hospital placed her on paid administrative leave. On September 26, 2024, CPS determined the infants had been abused, but found there was not sufficient evidence to say Strautman was responsible. Henrico Police and the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office closed the case. According to prosecutors, the hospital brought Strautman back to work that very month. Several weeks later, more babies began to suffer mysterious broken bones in the NICU.
This is an institution that's supposed to protect the most innocent human beings, and they didn't. And for the life of me, I can't understand why.
The hospital says they found 3 babies with fractures in November and December of 2024 and reported it to the proper authorities. The Virginia Department of Health suggested Henrico doctors stop new admissions to the NICU, which they did on Christmas Eve. On January 2nd of this year, Strautman was charged with abusing one of those babies. This criminal complaint says video evidence from November 10th of last year shows Strautman applying pressure to the then 5-month-old infant's legs, placing her weight down on the legs of the baby, and then taking both legs and pushing them backwards to where the baby's feet were at his head. The child looked to be crying and in distress.
Prior to video existing, people were charged with crimes. They were charged with malicious wounding. So do you feel like the county did everything they possibly could to investigate in 2023 and try to find evidence of who the perpetrator was at that time?
Again, I don't want to comment specifically on the findings of 2023 or how it came to be that agencies came to certain findings in 2023. What is important for the public to know is that everything that happened in 2023 is in fact part of an ongoing investigation today.